Hey friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin and I am so excited that you decided to take time out of your day to spend with me because today we are doing something that is very exciting. And that is I am having someone else pick 3 books for me to read throughout this vlog. And that someone is very special to me. And it is my wife, and her name is Lex. And I'll insert a cutie picture of us right here. And so Lex is also a reader. We're both very nerdy, bookish people. I decided that with it being Love Month, I wanted her to pick out some books for me to read. But of course, this is also Black History Month, so she was limited. Well, not I wouldn't say limited, but it had to be books by Black authors that she chose for me to read. She is a little camera shy, which is fine. I'm not gonna make anybody get on camera unless they want to and uncomfortable. So we will have her voice telling us why she picked certain books that she did, a little bit about our reading taste. We mainly align, but when it comes to horror, she will read horror. I'm scary. I'm very scary. And so I usually don't pick up horror books and I will read just a straight up romance, whereas she's not a romance reader. She's not gonna read it. Now she will read fantasy romance, but not just a straight up contemporary or historical romance. It has to have some aspect of fantasy or maybe horror or something to it for her to pick it up. So that is where we differ mainly, but I did want to show you a couple of books that we do have in common, books that we both gave 5 stars to, just so you can get a feel of how we align as far as book taste. So the first book that we align on is actually a surprise, because didn't I just say that Lex doesn't read romance? Yes, but when I already know at this point what books she is giving me. And so I also wanted to, make her step out of her comfort zone and read something that she normally wouldn't. So I convinced her to read Outdrawn, and she gave it 5 stars. And this is a 5 star book for me too. So that's just really special that, she doesn't read romance, but the one that I really loved and wanted her to read, she ended up loving. So that made me really happy. We aligned on Outdrawn. This is also a book that she pushed me to read because I didn't have intentions on reading it, but she read it first and loved it and kind of forced me into reading it, but I ended up loving it as well, so it's fine. That is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. We both gave this glowing 5 stars. Another one of our favorites includes Faybound by Sarah L. Arifi. Are you surprised? You shouldn't be if you've seen any other video of mine. And a more recent one that we both loved is Immortal Dark by Taija Skirma. We both ate this up and we're both set and ready for the sequel to this. And then the last book that we align on is Blood Like Magic, this series by Lizelle Sandberry. We gave both of the books in this duology 5 stars. Now, oh, my leg is itching. There are some other books in different genres and things that we align on, but because we're sticking to Black authors for this video, I wanted to stick to Black authors in showing you what books that we do align on. But I do think that I'm going to do this again at some point, so you'll learn a little bit more about our taste and what we like to read along the way. But anyway, this intro has been long enough. What you will see next is the book review. I'll reveal them one by one, and we'll have Lex on audio talking about why she wanted me to read these books, and then we'll get into it and see what I think of them. I'm a little nervous because I am stepping out of my comfort zone a little bit. Only one of the books that she chose for me was actually on my immediate TBR, so we'll see what happens. I'm excited to do this, and I'm happy that y'all get to learn a little bit more about Lex. Anyway, this intro has been long enough. Let's get into the books and see what happens.
The first book I picked is Delicious Monsters by Lizelle Samberry. I picked this book because I love the Blood Like Magic duology, and I actually love this author. And so I read this book and I laughed. I cried. It was actually really good. I really did enjoy it. And even though this is not the type of book that you would actually read because it's a little bit of horror, it was a really good story about black girls and not forgetting about them and that they're important. So I think you'll enjoy it, even though you're going to cry a little bit.
Friends, I have bad news. I have bad news, and that is that I will be DNFing Delicious Monsters. I made it to page 200 and I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm upset about it because here's the thing. I'm very much like a competitive person. I'm very much like you're not gonna beat me type of person. Like I am not a bitch. I'm gonna read this book. This book is not gonna get me. This is YA horror, and ain't no YA book gonna have me out here scared. Like that was my mindset as I'm reading this, right? And I'm scary, and so I can't do it. Like the first little situation that happened, I was like, I said, okay, Lex, I'm gonna need you to tell me if this gets worse because I just need to be preparing myself. And she's like, oh yeah, that's nothing. Like it definitely gets worse. And then another situation happens, and I get so grossed out that I just set the book down. I just flopped the book down. I'm done for the day. I'm not picking this book up for the rest of the day. And then I picked it up the next day. And I'm like, okay, we can push through. We can push through it. And the next situation happens, and I'm like, okay, look, I'm scared. I am anxious when I'm reading this. Like my heart is literally beating fast, and I don't know that I can handle it. And she was like, do not stress yourself out or like it's just a book, and we knew going in like this is a horror book, that's not your thing. Like we knew this going in. I'm like, you right, but I didn't want to let it beat me. I did not want to let this book beat me, and I shouldn't even think of it in that way. Like I really did step out of my comfort zone with this one, and she was just surprised that I read as much as I did. And another part of that was I actually was really into the story that this book is telling, and I should tell you what that is, right? So in this book, we're following two girls in different timelines. So we're following Daisy, and Daisy sees dead people. And because of that, she is kind of reclusive. She doesn't have a lot of friends. She's also dating this older guy who is a shit sack. And yeah, Daisy's mom has told her basically for most of her life that there's this house that they're supposed to inherit, and this house will be the answer to all of their prayers. They'll have more money, and essentially having more money means that Daisy won't have to take care of her mom in certain ways, and Daisy can have her freedom as a person to go and do as she pleases. And that is what Daisy wants. She wants her freedom. She wants to be able to go away from her mom and do her own thing. And so Daisy's boyfriend dumps her, and she's just kind of, a shell of a person at this point. But they get the call about the house. And so Daisy is like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. It's time. But once they get there, things are not as they seem. Daisy is not. I keep looking at the back because I don't want to spoil anything for you. But the house isn't what. I'll just read the sentence off. But the house is nothing like Daisy expects, and she begins to realize that her experience with the supernatural might be no match for her mother's secrets, nor what lurks within the walls. Creepy shit, right? Right. And we are also following Brittany. And Brittany is, first of all, Brittany's timeline is 10 years in the future compared to Daisy. I hope I said that in a way that makes sense. And Brittany is also trying to escape her mother. Her mother is abusive, and she is a best-selling author who claims that the Miracle Mansion, which is the house that Daisy and her mom moved to, like changed her into this better person, and basically airs out all of Brittany's like traumatic life experiences in this book and claims that the house changed her mom into a better person, and Brittany knows that this is not the case. Her mama didn't change, you know. Yeah, I'm gonna keep reading the synopsis because I don't I keep wanting to spoil things, and I shouldn't want to do that. But it says she decides that the new season of her popular haunted web series will uncover what happened to a young black girl in the mansion 10 years prior and finally expose her mother's lies. But as she gets more wrapped up in the investigation, she'll have to decide if she can only bring one story to light, which matters most, Daisy's or her own. And this has so many important conversations and so many things that I was like, yes, period. Like, just the experience of being a black girl, I feel like you can relate to this. And there's a lot of themes of forgotten black girls, which is very important to shed a light on. It's the creepy horror things for me. It's the haunted house for me. I can't. I physically cannot. But I do think that this is something that I might actually like recommend. And you may be thinking, Erin, how are you going to recommend something you didn't finish? The 200 pages that I've read so far have me convinced. Like, this is a good book. Like, she's good. Now, would I recommend this for people who are easily spooked, who are scary people like me? Absolutely not. Or at your own risk. These things might not bother you as much as they bother me. There's a specific type of situation that keeps happening at worse and getting worse. And the baby instance of that freaked me out. And I think that's just going to be based on who you are as a person. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to let this one go. For my own sanity, for my own mental health and anxiety, I'm going to let it go. But I am happy that I tried it. And the things that I did take from the 200 pages that I read will stick with me forever, I think. And, you know, I might like skim a little bit and like get Lex to tell me how it actually ends, because like I said, there's so many important conversations in here that I just want to know. So yes, this is gonna be a no for me. But I think you should try it and see if it works for you based on, you know, how scary you are. So let's move on to the next book.
The second book I picked is Witches Thick and Gold. This is a duology. It's by Shannon Smart, and I absolutely love this book. This was the first book I ever read by Shannon, but I love a good fantasy with a bad bitch. And in this book, you get two. So you get two black bad bitches that will beat your ass. And I loved it. So the more the merrier. I think that you're gonna like this book. You're gonna read about some patois up in here and you ain't gonna know what it means. But you're gonna get the gist of it in the context. But it's really good. I think you'll enjoy it.
so I'm like 47% into Witches Steeped in Gold, and I think I've read enough to kind of formulate first thoughts, feelings, impressions on this book. I'm gonna have a hard time explaining this. So what I think I'm gonna do is read you the synopsis just so I don't spoil anything. And then I can talk to you a little bit more about it. But I just feel like I'm going to do a horrible job at explaining this, and I don't want to do that. So anyway, Araya Adair has spent her life in a cell. Heir to an overthrown and magically gifted dynasty, she'll have her vengeance one day. Jasmine Karaya, I don't know, is the Doyen's daughter, but unlike her sister, she has no intention of dying to strengthen her mother's power. Sworn enemies, the two witches enter a deadly alliance to take down the woman who threatens both of their worlds, Doyen Carriot. But revenge is a bloody pursuit and nothing is certain, except the lengths Araya and Jasmine will go to win this game. So, Araya has been in prison and for about 10 years or so, something like that. And when they reach a certain age, they are released and they can go get their power. And once they inherit their power, then they'll go into some kind of servitude or I forgot the actual word that I'm trying to say. But yeah, they'll basically go into a service to the queen or somebody like that. And yeah, but they have a limited amount of power. They won't receive their full, they will be hindered in a way. And so, with Araya being connected to one of the most powerful dynasties, of course, she can't really hide that. Okay, so both Araya and Jasmine have claims to the throne, but in this world, there are two types of witches warring against each other. Two main types anyway. There are others involved, but yes, two main types. And it essentially boils down to the Adairs, which is Araya's family. Araya. And then the Carriots, I think that's how you pronounce it, is Jasmine's family. And that's who currently sits on the throne because Jasmine's mother decided to get close to Araya's mother, and then they had basically overthrown them and killed them all off. And Araya was able to sneak away, and that's the only reason why she's alive today. But the current Doyen, Jasmine's mother, has allowed some things to happen, and they aren't good things. They hold this yielding, which is kind of like the Hunger Games, if you want to just an easy comparison. And of course, people are not okay with that. They're losing their children, and the Doyen even let her daughter be a part of the yielding, and didn't really care that she was killed off. And Jasmine was like, "Look, I'm not about to be killed off. It's just so my mother can have more power." She hasn't mentioned like when I'm going to be ready to take over, or even passing the throne over to her. And so there's this rebellion brewing, and Jasmine is actually a part of this rebellion against her mother. And I think that's so interesting and heartbreaking that you have to go against your parent because they're a sucky ass person. And just the strength on Jasmine for being able to be involved in this rebellion and knowing that it's going to ultimately mean the death of her mother. My heart goes out to her. But also we have Araya, who her family has all been killed off, and she's just fighting to get what's rightfully hers. And at first I was Team Araya. All day Team Araya. Like watching her in these first few chapters was just like I was in awe of her and her strength. But also like I do feel for Jasmine. It's not like I don't like her. She has her own struggles, but the more we learn about Jasmine, I think the more that I like her as well, and I'm rooting for her. And I think this is going to be very interesting to see how this plays out, because I think at some point they're going to have to join an alliance together. And right now, Jasmine is kind of floating the idea around. But, all of the people close to her is telling her this is a bad idea. Because if the rebellion finds out that Araya Adair is alive, then an Adair is alive, oh, it's over with. And Jasmine, nobody's gonna want Jasmine to take the throne. Like they're not gonna care about that. And so it's going to be a very delicate balance of working with Araya, but also who's gonna sit on the throne once the Doyen is actually killed off. Very interesting. I find myself really enjoying like the world building and learning more about the culture and the lore and things in this world. I do think it is very wordy, and I do wish that some things were better explained because they do use patois in this book, like Lex mentioned, but they don't. Like, there's no footnotes or glossary explaining what some of the terms mean. And sometimes they come behind and explain it, but sometimes they don't. And so you're just kind of left with using context clues to figure out what they're talking about. And I don't necessarily enjoy that part, but I think I'm having a good time. I don't know. I don't know if this will be. The funny thing is, there is a glossary in the back. It's just explaining family trees and how the structure of the. What am I trying to say? The structure of the two different groups, but not explaining the patois at all. Yeah. I do love that power is passed down through the firstborn daughters, like yes daughters. Love that. I just feel slightly disconnected from the story. Like, I'm enjoying it while I'm reading it, and like I said, I am rooting for these characters and feeling, emotions towards them. But there is a little disconnect for me, and I don't know if it's just because I think it's kind of long already, or I don't know. But I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep pushing. I am reading slowly, so slow, and then there's some days where I can't even read it all. So this vlog is taking way longer than I expected it to. And yeah, but I am just letting whatever needs to happen. I'm not going to be the type of content creator that pushes themselves to read outside of what I want to read. So I'm going to be very real about how much I'm reading, when I'm reading, and things like that. Like, I don't want to set the precedent that I have to read however many books, or if I'm not feeling like reading and I feel like doing something else, I'm gonna allow myself to do something else. And also, as far as like uploading videos, I usually do 2 a week, but if something happens and I need to just do one, or I need to skip out a week, that's fine. I'm not even going to set the precedent that it has to be very strict, because this is something that I do for fun. And I just I'm gonna let it happen as it is, just to keep my sanity and not make this feel like, because I don't want to ruin making videos or ruin making reading for myself. Like, that's not what I want to do. So, yeah. All that being said, I'm gonna get back to reading this and see what I think of it and if I can finish it up soon. So here we are, probably a week later, if not closer to 2 weeks later. And I have finally finished Witches Steeped in Gold. And let us talk about my thoughts, okay? I want to start off by saying that I do really love this story. I think it is very much important. I think that it brings something different to YA fantasy. I'm here for it, okay? But what I'm not here for is that I felt every single page that I read. I felt like I would read for an hour and not make any progress. I feel like I wasn't making progress. I felt the weight of every page of the story, and I do feel like it was long. It was very long. And not even in the sense of like it being pages, because in the grand scheme of fantasy, a little over 500 pages is not long, right? It's not. But the story itself felt like, okay, because this is a duology, and we know that a lot of Black women authors who write in the fantasy space are put into the YA category, whether it's YA or not, and also only get duologies. It is very hard and very uncommon, it feels like, to find Black writers who get full, at least trilogies or beyond. It's a lot of Black fantasy duology. And I think that is a publishing issue. So, what I feel like this author had to do was put a whole lot of story into two books that should have been at minimum three. Because the next book in the series, I don't remember the name, Empress, something about an empress, but it's even bigger than this one. I think it's probably close to the 700-page mark. And so I know with the amount of story that was told in this first book that it's going to be even more packed into that second book. And I do think this would have benefited from at least being a trilogy. But she had to tell the story that she wanted to tell, so she just condensed it down into two books. And it feels like a lot. With that being said, though, the plot was plotting. And I really ended up going back on what I said, because y'all know I was saying that, Jasmine was warming up to I was warming up to Jasmine, and I was feeling more for her story and feeling more feelings toward her as a character, but I don't like her. By the time this book ended, Jasmine had pissed me off. Because, girl, what are you doing? And she was so jealous of Araya and so afraid of Araya. And what irritated me the most is that if the two of them had worked together, it would have been iconic, because they needed what the other had. Like, Araya does not want to rule. She does not want to be empress. She wants to be a warrior. Jasmine is not a warrior. She can't fight. She ain't got no magic. So, like, she could handle the political side and sit, like, they just, they were two halves that would have been a really good whole. But because of the way that Jasmine was raised, she and her fear and jealousy of Araya, it never would have worked. It never would have worked. And by the end of it, I felt like she ended up becoming very similar to the person that she fought her whole life to not become. And that's very sad to watch and see. And it did not have to be that way. But you know what they say, what power will do to people. It's like a little budding romance in this. And I'm just like, come on, make it happen. Like, I'm ready. Like, you giving me crumbs and it's cute, but I need it to become a thing. And that's with both Araya and Jazz. But there was a part where, I'm gonna try to keep it very vague. There's a part where Jasmine's mother did something so awful to Araya that I wanted to cry. I wanted to shed tears. And I am not a book crier. I'm barely a life crier, okay? And so that broke me down. But then, but then somebody came through, and it wasn't what I thought. And I wanted to cry again. I wanted to hug everybody in that scene. Like, come on, family, bring it in. Like, come on. So there was a lot to like and love about this book. And for that, I'm going to rate it 4 stars. I do think that it is very good, a very good story. But I am glad I read it because I was curious. I was curious about it. And like I said, I had a good time while I was reading it. Enough rambling about that. Let us get on to this third book that Lex picked out for me.
The third book I picked is Sing Me to Sleep by Gabby Burton. Let me tell you something. I love this book. This is a sexy ass siren that can kill you in a lot of ways. And like, of course, another bad bitch. It's a duology, but I went through these books so fast, like a couple days back to back. I definitely think you're gonna like this book. because it's a lot of black people. It's very romantic. I do like that part, even though I don't like romance books. They have to be mixed in with a bunch of other stuff for me to like it. But the romance part you definitely gonna like, and probably the killing too. Yeah, you gonna like that too.
Alrighty. Are we in the same spot? Yeah, but mind your business. So let's talk about. Uh oh. Uh oh. Let us talk about Sing Me to Sleep by Gabby Burton because I've already finished this and I read it pretty fast. I ended up mainly listening to the audio of this just because eyeball reading for me was very exhausting. And I really enjoyed the audiobook of this. Ouch. So, Sing Me to Sleep follows, it's either Saoirse or Saoirse because I thought it was Saoirse, but then the audiobook said Saoirse. So I just go back and forth. I'll probably say Saoirse though. So, Saoirse is a soldier and she, is it called a soldier? Yeah. So she's a soldier at this academy in training. And when it comes to graduation day, she ends up winning the fight that they put on to see who will be like the first or come out as like the top of the class. And our girl Saoirse is the top of the class, but Saoirse is hiding a secret. She is a siren, but she's the last siren in this realm world because they were all killed off because the royalty think that Fae are top tier and they're the only ones like who deserve anything really. Witches have to hide out and like can't really do witchery things unless it's something that the Fae want. And humans are treated horribly. Yeah, if they find out she's a siren, she will be killed immediately. So she is moonlighting as an Acatus. And a Cadis is someone who is a child of magical parents, but they don't have any magic themselves. So, like a step above a human. And Saoirse has this blended family, and this family who couldn't have kids came in and took Saoirse, not took, but adopted Saoirse and this little girl named Rain. And the way Saoirse goes up for Rain, you would think they were blood related, but they're not. But like I said, Saoirse does everything that she does in her life for Rain to keep Rain safe because Rain is not a fae, but we don't know what she is for a large part of the book. So I'm not going to tell you what Rain actually is. But yes. So they have these things called kale beads, and it allows you to alter your appearance. So both Saoirse and Rain have kill beads that they use to hide their identities. Saoirse works as an assassin basically, and she doesn't really know, she thinks she knows who she's working for, but she doesn't really know. She just gets these jobs and she just goes and kills these people, and that's kind of how she's keeping her siren powers under control. After she becomes top class at this graduation, someone leaves a, is it a ransom note? I don't know what it's called, but leaves a note with Rain basically saying, you pay us or we'll expose what Rain is. And of course, Saoirse flips out. So she takes a job at the palace to, get enough money, but also figure out who sent this note because it came from the palace. And while she's there, she end up taking a job for Prince Hayes. And Prince Hayes has a friend who was murdered. And now they're trying to figure out who murdered that friend because there's also another string of murders happening within the royal sphere or whatever. He takes an immediate liking to Saoirse, and so he, entrusts her to help him figure out who is murdering these people. And that person just so happens to be Saoirse. So she is trying to hide the fact that she is the murderer, but also, figure out who is sending these ransom notes and who wants to hurt her and Rain. And it's a lot going on. This is very fast paced. And I rated this a 4.5 star. I was in it from jump. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this was that I could completely and totally relate to Saoirse in the way that I would do anything for my younger sisters. Like I I felt for her, and it, my heart was like, yeah, I understand, like same. So the way that she was going hard for Rain, even though she was going a little too hard at times, it was coming from a place of really genuinely caring about Rain and wanting what was best for her. And Prince Hayes, like he wanted Saoirse from jump. And I thought it was so cute. And just seeing how, reluctant she was to give him a chance, but eventually, figuring out that he is a good person and that she does like him. And, it was cute. I think that if you liked the fast paced cat and mouse of Heartless Hunter, then I think you would really, really enjoy this. And it's a very similar setup as, Rune and Gideon from that book. Saoirse and Hayes kind of give off those vibes. And I think that, yeah, this was very fast paced, fast moving. I was in it. There were plot twists and I was twisted. I was shook and shaken, and I was so mad at myself because I was so far off. And so that was fun, trying to also figure out the whodunit of it all. So I think that, yeah, this was a very much a fun time. 4.5 stars. I'm really excited to see where we go in the second book, because the way this end just broke my heart, because I have been rooting for Hayes and Saoirse since day one. From jump, I was like, Legs, I like him. And she's like, ugh, whatever. But I did. I really did like Hayes, and I could tell like where this was going. And my hope is that Hayes doesn't disappoint me, you know? So we'll see what happens, but I'm very happy that she pushed this up on my TBR, because I mean, I did have plans to read it. It just was, they weren't immediate plans. But now I'm like in it, and I plan on reading the sequel to this in March so I can figure out what happens, because yeah, the Cliffy that this ended on. Yeah, got to see what happens next. So, with all of that, we have come to the end of this video where I had Lex pick out some books for me to read, and I would say that she was pretty successful. You know, I think she did pretty good, because with Delicious Monsters, that was a DNF for me, but that was so far out of my comfort zone. And with Just Deep in Gold being a 4 star, something that I definitely would not have gotten to anytime soon, or maybe not even at all, giving me, one of my best books of the month, maybe even of the year, depending on how things go. With Sing Me to Sleep being a 4.5 star, definitely the most successful of this vlog, but I think she knew that going in because it is more up my alley of things that I tend to read. So yeah, really excited that we got to do this, and I do plan on doing this again. This was fun, and maybe trying to pull Lex into doing some more videos with me. Maybe not often, because that's not her thing, but maybe I can do some convincing. So, thank you so much for staying to the end of this video. Thank you for watching, commenting, sharing, subscribing. Everything that you do to support me and this channel is very much always appreciated. I hope that you have the best day that you possibly can. And remember to take care of yourself. And I will catch you in the next video. Bye.